Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Dangers and Dragons podcast.
I'm Julia, ready for another adventure.
I'm Adrian, and we've got a really cool story for you today.
Ooh, I love cool stories.
This one takes us deep into a magical forest.
Okay, I'm intrigued already.
But instead of your typical enchanted glade, we find something much more intriguing.
Like what?
The Ironwood Throne.
An ironwood throne. That's not your typical, jewel-encrusted seat of power, is it?
Not even close.
So what is it then?
It's an ancient tree, all gnarled and twisted, but shaped into a seat of power.
Wow, right in the heart of the forest.
Right in the heart of the forest.
That's such a cool image.
It really is.
What do you think the author is trying to convey with that, making the throne a part of nature like that?
I think it's all about showing us that power in this kingdom is connected to nature.
Instead of conquering the environment, it's about being in tune with it.
Exactly.
That's a really neat concept.
Now, every good throne needs a ruler, right?
Of course.
But here's where things get interesting.
I love interesting.
Legend has it that this Ironwood Throne, it actually chooses the true ruler.
Oh, wow. So it's not just about who's born into royalty.
Not this time.
So who does it choose?
It chooses a humble woodsman.
A woodsman. Really?
Yeah, not some powerful king or cunning queen, just a simple guy who lives in the forest.
Now that's a twist.
It really makes you think about what qualities this throne is looking for in a leader.
It's clearly not about lineage or military might.
You got it.
This woodsman probably knows more about, talking to trees than commanding armies.
I bet you're right.
Can you imagine the culture shock for the nobles?
Oh, I can only imagine.
They're expecting some royal hotshot.
And they get a guy who smells like sawdust and pine needles.
It completely throws their whole power structure into question.
It really does.
It's a classic power struggle, isn't it? The old guard versus the new, tradition versus change.
Absolutely.
And the story just sets it up so well by showing us the contrast between what the court expects and who this new king really is.
And it's not just the woodsman himself who's shaking things up.
Oh. What else is going on?
The throne itself, it's described as pulsing with the forest's sorrow.
That's an interesting detail.
Almost like it's bearing the weight of the forest's suffering.
Why do you think that is? What do you make of that?
Well, to me, it suggests that ruling in this world isn't just about power and privilege.
It's about responsibility.
Exactly.
So the throne isn't a symbol of dominance. It's more like a burden.
I think that's a great way to put it.
A constant reminder of the connection between the ruler and the land.
Makes you wonder if anyone would even want to sit on a throne like that.
Especially if it means feeling the pain of an entire forest.
Right.
It's a powerful way of showing us that leadership in this world is about empathy, about understanding.
Not just about imposing your will on the environment, but listening to its needs.
And responding accordingly.
And this Woodman King, he seems to take that responsibility seriously.
How so?
He surrounds himself with advisors, but not the usual dukes and barons you'd expect in a royal court.
Oh. Who are his advisors then?
Dryads and wolves.
Dryads and wolves. Seriously?
Seriously.
That's quite a statement.
It's like he's saying, forget your fancy titles and your courtly intrigues. I'm going straight to the source.
He's building a government that's literally rooted in nature.
Exactly.
And his decrees reflect that, right?
Yeah.
He's not focused on taxes and wars.
Nope. His priorities are different.
Reforestation, listening to the needs of the forest creatures.
It's a radical shift, putting the well-being of the environment above all else.
I bet the nobles are thrilled about that.
Let's just say they're not exactly throwing a party.
I can just imagine them grumbling in their fancy halls about this mad king and his tree-hugging ways.
It's a classic clash between idealism and pragmatism.
The king is driven by this deep connection to nature, this desire to restore balance.
While the nobles are more concerned with maintaining their own power and privilege.
It raises a really interesting question, though. Can you really change a system from within? Or does real change require a more radical approach?
That's a question for the ages.
Welcome back to the Dangers and Dragons podcast.
Ready for more twists and turns?
Always.
Last time, we left off with our woodsman king making some pretty bold choices.
Choosing dryads and wolves as advisors. Yeah, that was a big one.
It definitely showed he's not afraid to challenge the way things are usually done.
But how does he actually govern?
Can he really bridge the gap between the human world and the natural world? I mean, it's one thing to have a symbolic council, but...
It's another thing entirely to actually make it work.
Right. So how does he handle those internal challenges.
Well, we know the nobles aren't too happy.
They're used to having a say in how the kingdom is run, and now they feel like they're being pushed aside.
They represent that old guard, those interests that benefit from the system as it is.
And they're not going to give up those privileges easily.
No, not without a fight.
So what does the king do? How does he deal with their resistance?
He does something pretty radical.
What's that?
He invites them, along with everyone else, to a round table.
A round table. Like King Arthur.
Kind of, but this one's special.
What makes it so special?
It's built from the remnants of the Ironwood throne.
Wow. He's literally taking the symbol of absolute power and turning it into...
the symbol of equality.
and collaboration.
It's a pretty brilliant move, actually.
By destroying the throne and building this round table, he's sending a message.
That power in this kingdom is no longer about hierarchy.
But about shared responsibility.
Exactly.
Like he's saying, we're all in this together, humans and nature alike.
Precisely.
But can a round table really solve all the problems they're facing?
Especially when those problems are, so deep-rooted in the way things have always been done.
That's the challenge, isn't it?
Getting people to actually work together is a lot harder than just bringing them together.
And the story doesn't shy away from showing us those difficulties.
Like what kind of difficulties?
Well, for starters, there's the language barrier.
Oh, right. How do you get dryads and wolves and humans to understand each other?
When they literally speak different languages.
It highlights the importance of communication.
And finding ways to bridge those gaps.
Definitely. And then you have the cultural differences, too.
Like what?
Well, the dryads, for example, they have this really long-term perspective.
They're thinking about the health of the forest over generations.
While humans are often more focused on their immediate needs.
It's that classic clash between short-term gain and long-term sustainability.
Something we struggle with in our own world, too.
Absolutely.
It's like this story, even though it's a fantasy, it reflects those real challenges we face.
When we try to find solutions that work for both humans and the environment.
Right, because it's not always easy to balance those different needs.
So, okay, back to the round table.
Sure.
How does it actually work? Do they just sit around and talk about their problems? Or do they take concrete action?
It's a bit of both.
Okay, so they share their perspectives, listen to each other's concerns.
Try to find some common ground.
But they also come up with practical solutions.
Yeah, they have to move beyond just talking.
Give us an example. What kind of solutions did they come up with?
Well, there's the problem of the dying sprites glade.
Okay, remind us. Why are the sprites so important?
They're essential to the health of the forest.
But their glade is withering.
Because of human encroachment.
So how do they fix that? Do they just tell the humans to back off?
That would be the simplest solution, but it wouldn't really solve anything.
Because the humans need the land for farming.
Exactly. So just telling them to leave wouldn't work.
So what do?
They come up with a compromise.
What kind of compromise?
They work with the humans to develop new farming techniques that are less harmful to the glade.
And they help the sprites to restore their magic.
Which then helps to revitalize the surrounding forest.
So it's a win-win.
The humans get to keep farming, the sprites get their glade back.
And the forest benefits from their collaboration.
It's a small victory.
But it shows that the round table can actually work.
It can produce tangible results.
And it highlights how important it is to find those creative solutions that address everyone's needs.
It's not about one side winning and the other losing.
It's about finding ways to coexist and thrive together.
The round table forces them to do that.
By coming to the table as equals and working towards a common goal.
It's a powerful model for how we could approach problem solving in our own world.
Especially when it comes to things like climate change and environmental degradation.
This story reminds us that we have the power to create a better future.
But it takes letting go of old ways of thinking.
And embracing collaboration and compromise.
There's a hopeful message.
Even in the face of these huge challenges, there's always a chance to find solutions if we're willing to work together.
But the story's not over yet.
Oh, right.
We still need to see how they deal with the external challenges.
The things that threaten not just the human world,
but the natural world as well. Welcome back to the Dangers and Dragons podcast one last time for this story.
We've seen our woodsman king really shake things up.
He's faced down tradition, tried to build those bridges between humans and nature.
Even set up that round table.
But there's more, right? More challenges.
Oh yeah, the biggest ones are still to come.
Because it's not just about the politics and the round table discussions.
There's something much bigger at stake.
The forest itself is suffering.
Remember that pulsing sorrow we talked about? Well, it turns out
it's more than just a feeling.
the forest is being poisoned, slowly but surely.
A creeping blight spreading through the trees.
The river, it's running black with toxins.
Even the crops are failing.
So now it's an ecological crisis on top of everything else.
This really raises the stakes.
Definitely.
What's causing this blight? Is it some, evil sorcerer?
Or a vengeful spirit.
It would be easier if it were something like that.
But it's not.
What is it then?
It's something far more insidious.
And sadly, much more familiar.
The story points the finger at human activity.
Specifically those unsustainable practices that have been exploiting the forest for generations.
It's not some magical enemy they have to defeat.
It's their own actions coming back to haunt them.
That adds a whole other layer to the story.
Forcing them to look not just at the symptoms, but at the root causes.
And that's never easy.
Especially when those causes are so deeply ingrained in their way of life.
Exactly.
It's like the story is taking all these ideas about environmentalism.
It's going beyond just, hugging trees.
It's getting into the nitty-gritty.
Understanding that delicate balance.
And what happens when you disrupt it?
Finding solutions takes more than good intentions.
It takes knowledge, ingenuity.
And a willingness to sacrifice.
So does the round table actually come up with a solution?
They do, but it's not some magical quick fix.
So no enchanted artifacts this time.
No.
No magic spells.
No.
It's about hard work and dedication.
They realize that healing the forest requires a long-term commitment.
And a fundamental shift in the way humans interact with nature.
It's about rolling up their sleeves and getting to work.
I like that.
They start implementing sustainable forestry practices.
Developing new ways to clean the water.
Even rediscovering ancient agricultural techniques.
Techniques that work with the land instead of against it.
It's a lot of trial and error.
Learning as they go.
And the story doesn't pretend it's easy.
They face setbacks, moments of doubt.
Wondering if they can really reverse the damage.
But they don't give up.
They keep fighting.
It's a powerful message.
Especially in a world facing so many environmental challenges.
We have the power to make a difference.
But we have to work together. Stay persistent.
Never lose sight of hope.
Exactly.
And in the end, their efforts pay off.
Slowly but surely, the forest starts to heal.
The blight recedes. The river runs clear again.
The land is fertile once more.
It's a hard-won victory.
But a victory nonetheless.
And not just for the environment.
But for the human spirit, too.
Because in saving the forest, they also save themselves.
They rediscover their connection to nature.
What about the woodsman king? What happens to him?
He remains a symbol of unity.
A champion for the forest.
But he also learns a valuable lesson.
What's that?
That true power isn't about control.
But about empowerment.
His role isn't to rule.
But to inspire, to guide.
To create a space where everyone can contribute.
That's a great lesson for any leader.
It's about recognizing everyone has something to offer.
And collaboration, not domination, is the key to achieving great things.
Exactly, and that's the legacy he leaves behind.
Not just a healthy forest, but a society that understands balance.
Sustainability, respect for nature.
It's a hopeful ending.
But a challenging one, too.
It tells us we can create a better world.
But we have to change our thinking, our actions.
And that wraps up another episode of the Dangers and Dragons podcast.
We hope you enjoyed this epic adventure.
That it sparked some thoughts about your own relationship with nature.
Don't forget to rate and follow us for more stories.
Until next time, keep those imaginations firing.
And remember, the power to create a better world lies within each of us.
See you on our next quest.